This video contains content sponsored by John Wilson Blades and MK Blades. Opinions discussed in this video do not reflect the views of John Wilson or MK.
Hello and welcome to this skating lesson. I'm Dave Leese and I'm thrilled to welcome back Mark Hanreddy of British Eurosport, of coach of many TSL skaters of the day. Some that I knew, some that I didn't. Mark, welcome back to the show.
Thanks a lot for having me. I'm excited to be back.
Yeah, happy Christmas, right?
Yes, happy Christmas to you and all the TSL viewers. It seems strange that I've been eating all sorts of festive good food, and yet we're about to discuss skaters who are in their prime, training or have been training as hard as possible, and yet we are viewing and commentating and critiquing upon them while they go through the pain and torture of competition at this time of the year.
It's really awful, I think, as a viewer, to know what you're going to be eating over the holidays and then have to watch Russian and Japanese nationals on TV. It's a terrible feeling, especially right after holiday parties.
Guilt.
What?
I felt guilt this week, like watching some of the skating and thinking, oh, you can't eat what I'm eating. Should I eat it? Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it's like being at a gymnastics meet and like consuming food, and they always have horrible food options. Yeah. And the worst, but I woke up this morning and I was like, okay, we have how many weeks until U.S. Nationals? We have how many steps to do to get svelte? Here we go. The holidays are over. New Year's is a nothing holiday to me.
Okay, now see, we have this window of time, especially in Scotland. You know, I'm a Scot, and in Scotland, Hogmanay New Year's Eve is a big gig, so I have a little bit more window of time before the lockdown and the gluttonous food consumption sort of kicks in.
Don't you wish you could be Russian? Because as a man, you're just allowed to like lose it. We expect the women to be svelte forever, but...
Oh, no, I just remember when I first switched to ice dance being told that Maxim Stavisky used to gain like 40 pounds in the off season and just be like an accordion that would... So I think I might have to channel some of that this winter.
Well, there was a lot going on. Let's talk about your career as an ice dancer. We actually tried to film a recap show for the Grand Prix final, and we had some connection issues. And you were a little bit spicy during the Grand Prix final. You get a little bit opinionated. You know, British Eurosport, they're known to being nice. And in the beginning, you know, everyone would love them. And I thought, well, no wonder everyone loves them, because they claim to love everyone. And so everyone loves if you think that you're in agreement. It's when you start criticizing that people start hating on you. Now, your opinions are starting to fly. You're not just the nice Brit anymore.
I know, and your viewership, they're pretty lethal and cutthroat, and I should hold back perhaps, but sometimes when you're so passionate about it, you can't help but get lost in the moment. And I think ice dance this season is so exciting, and I am just genuinely very excited about it, and with that comes passion, and yes, perhaps some too much vocality about what I think about the ice dance team.
I think it's important because there are so many shades of gray, especially this year. Some of the content is similar, and there's a lot of talent out there, which is good. I actually saw Weaver and Poget skate for a minute the other day, and they were practicing their free dance and looking quite strong. So you think that that's a team that didn't even make the Grand Prix final?
Yeah, we've talked about it before, I know, but I mean, this year, I keep saying it, but I'm blown over by the stats that you've got this year at World Championship. Probably the likelihood is, depending on what happens with the various national championships, you'll have 7 teams competing at Worlds who've all previously won a World Championship medal, and that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, there's 7 teams that have all been on the podium that are now vying for the top 3 spots, and it makes for both a wondrous event and a really heartfelt, raw, emotional event, because there are going to be at least 4 teams that are going to be pretty devastated by not being on the podium. So I feel their pain, and I feel their excitement, and I feel their anguish, and it's exciting.
Yeah, and we just have to say one thing. I did tell you that Tessa and Scott would beat the French this year. So
whatever. No, yeah, I bow down. I salute you for your predictions.
Mm-hmm.
But the world of ice dance is fickle, and I prophesy that these 2 teams will flip-flop and chop and change right up to Pyeongchang, and I think that the International Skating Union will be delighted that is the case, that they've got a rivalry, you know, transatlantic rivalry that will keep ice dance fashionable and interesting heading into the next Winter Olympics. So I don't discount the possibility, rightly or wrongly, that the results may change again.
I hope
But
that
so
does
far,
happen. It appears in ice dance that sometimes the result, if you look, is kind of set for the year. In 2013 and 2014, Tessa and Scott never actually beat Marilyn Charlie, but they had previously, and they were certainly capable of it. And it
well,
looks
I
like
mean,
this year, Tessa and Scott are beating the French, but hopefully it's a open competition moving forward.
I mean, when I retired from competing, I remember being bitter and twisted and cynical as could be. And then I after I finished performing and whatnot, I've been coaching, and I've got to believe that ultimately the best skater wins, and I have to be passionate about that. But nevertheless, the likes of the post that we see on Instagram by the skating protocol, you have to perhaps that's erring on my side of cynicism again, and realizing that things might be a little bit preconceived. But so far, I would have to admit that the results of the top two teams in the ice dance world this season, I think, have been right.
Skating protocol is fun. So it originally started as I have two different friends that have ideas. My one friend Shannon, we wanted, now that there is open judging, we wanted to map out which judges we knew had affiliations, whether it's because of training, because of friendship, because of coaching, because skating is incestuous and everyone has ties to everyone else, and it was just interesting to see for the panel.
And I mean, I just think it's absolutely fascinating. I am fascinated by the skating protocol, and you just can't hide now. And we can't. It's difficult because kind of, as a coach, when you're teaching young skaters, you want them to believe that ultimately their skating holds rank and dictates the results, which it does.
Mm-hmm.
But as skating protocol is proving that, some games can be played.
Well, we also wanted to track, and he's, did a fabulous job and just run with it, but we wanted to track who was responsible to what, and also whose tastes align with what, because there are certain callers that are sticklers for certain things, obviously Shidamano, with the under rotation calls, and who's calling the Lutz edges, and who's...
Yeah.
And Judy Bloomberg is known for being a tough caller in dance, and all different things. But I think that really it goes back to our love for Vanessa Riley and the great judging she did of Surya Bonali over those many years in the 90s, the British judge. You'd always have 5'7", 5'7", 5'8", British judge 5'0". And
scathing. She was nothing like John Curry, and therefore...
Did she ever judge you?
Vanessa? I don't know, maybe when I was like a novice single skater. No, I'm not sure. Certainly if she did, I didn't know that I should be lucky to be judged by her.
You need to go back, look at those results, and see what she thought of your skating. But
she probably would have liked, rightly or wrongly, she would have liked my pointed toes. I might not have been able to jump or land anything, but she might have liked 5, something like it.
Yeah, I always like your pointed toes on your aerial silk act and all of that. Now, the Cirque du Soleil is doing an ice show. I saw that they're casting. Have you been sending out videotapes? Because we know that you're a ham and like to be the center of attention.
Aren't we all? We are skaters.
Yeah.
I would love to perform again, but my wife is pregnant with our second child due early next year.
Yeah.
The likelihood of me being able to get out and perform and go on the road is not something I can consider at the moment. But I'll just have to find other ways in which to be the centre of attention again. As for being on TSL, you are satiating my desire.
Well, let's talk about the actual skating at Russian Nationals. Let's talk about Bobrova and Soloviev. They finished off the podium at the Grand Prix final. I think you'd have to be dense if you didn't think that Russia is making an absolute push to have a team in the mix at the Olympic Games. How good is this team? What is your thoughts on their potential? I thought that it's interesting that Tatiana Flad is probably the nicest person because she speaks so many languages and is able to get along with everyone. And I was saying to someone the other day before Nationals that I just feel like a lot of Julin's programs are generic. They're not as complex. They seem old-fashioned. And even Tatiana said that this program just felt unimaginative. So what do you...
I mean, it's a little tricky for me because when I judge this team, I have my preconceived ideas of the team.
Mm-hmm.
it was interesting when I was watching the Grand Prix final. It came up in the stats that they've been together for I think 16 or 17 years, and I have um, boxed them up, and I need to.
Well,
I need
everyone
to
does that. That is reality in the sport.
yeah,
Everyone,
that,
yeah, you've defied it.
yeah. I had to try and look fresh at it, and so when I watched them competing at Russian nationals, I thought, right, okay, Mark, come on, be really objective here. And for me, just and this is personal preference. For me, she's always been a little bit hunched, and I think that she's improved. There's no doubt she's improved. She's
Mhm.
got to improve. If you're devoting that amount of hours to something, you're going to get better. But she just has a short neck, and just for me, then aesthetically, it's not a team that's comparable. And because they're stylistically so set in their ways, which is inevitable, it's not a style that I think can compete with the likes of the French or even Virtue Moyer. And for me, I certainly prefer some of the younger Russian teams behind them.
Mhm.
But again, looking at it objectively, I can still recognise that they are the strongest, the fastest, and the couple with the most conviction, probably as a byproduct of their extensive time training together. So I can still recognise the fact that they perhaps deserve to win the Russian national title, but I
Would there
wouldn't
be
be
a
back.
push for them to get the bronze at the World Championships over the Shibutanis?
I'm sure there'll be a massive push. Um, I have thoughts on the Shibutanis as well, but I
What are those
certainly.
thoughts? Let's talk about it. Let's openly.
Well, I mean, to me, the Shibutanis are better than Dobrova and Solovia.
Hmm. Agree.
Um, and again, this is where I become not a skating commentator, but a skating fan. I'm a fan of these ice dance teams. I'm a fan of the Shibutanis. But recently I heard stuff about what happens in the training rink with the Shibutanis, and now I carry that on again through to my opinions of them, which are not perhaps as wholesome as the perfect image that's presented. So I need to be careful. If we're just talking skating, Shibutanis are better than Dobrova and Solovia.
I would
Digging
say
a
that the
hole there.
Shibutanis have crafted an image for themselves through their interviews, and Marilyn Charlie did this a bit as well. They're controlled to the point of Taylor Swift, but I think that unlike Marilyn Charlie, sometimes the Shibutanis seem controlled on the ice, and that I think dance is about emotion and passion and freedom, and that I think holds them back. I think that Bobrova and Soloviev have a little bit more of that freedom, but their skating has far more hand-to-hand choreography, and that even when they are in hold, the distance between them is quite massive. The fact that she's able to twizzle a full arm's length away from him is quite telling and far simpler than if you look at the holds of like, the Shibutanis.
And I mean, you make. I think that's a fascinating observation of the Shibutanis in comparison to Davis and White, and I agree with you entirely. In terms of Bobrova Solovia, I agree they've not necessarily progressed, and in an era and in a period in which ice dances, is being so warped and changed, and the progression is so huge within ice dance at this moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
That's perhaps where they're less captivating than others. They're not forging ahead in a new, different stylization.
I also think
And
it seems to be a disadvantage a little bit to have the long limbs at this point in ice dance because of the acrobatic nature and the fact that when you're taller, you're usually a little bit slower in terms of flipping and moving. And
also, I think, that I mean, that's just based on the fact that I heard this recently. I didn't really appreciate it before, but if they've been together for 16, 17 years, you're going back to they've gone through the change in the new judging system, and they're not a couple born from this acrobatic, crazy lifting. They look probably what we're thinking 16. They'll have been doing the blade to head rotate 5 rotations level 4, or hold blade to head for 2. Just to hit a static pose. As it was when the new judging system was coming through. Now what is required of them, like take Bobrova Soloviev, their straight line left. They've used it before. I commentated on it at the Grand Prix final, and it's level 4, and it's clean, and it's easy, and it's easily a GOE +1/+2. But it just looks so tame and so boring.
And that's a cap. That's capped at +1. They're not going to get the +3s that the French and Tessa and Scott are getting, which add up. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. And I suppose they're just, whilst they're a little bit they're a little wild in terms of their emotional interpretation, they're a little bit capped, like you say, in terms of their choreographic and movement. They're what they come up with movement wise.
It's interesting because Julien was so imaginative with himself as a skater. This team doesn't seem to inspire him to his best creative works. If you look at, even when he had Olynyk and Katsalapov as a junior team, he seemed to have much more of a vision for where he wanted to take their skating. Or you look at what he did with Peshalat and Borza. He's never been, I think, a coach that really believes in the acrobatic lifts. I think he's probably someone that thinks skating is more about the edges and the skating. But it's interesting because Olynyk and Katsalapov were really criticized for having simple lifts when he coached them in 2010, 2011, when they reached the senior ranks at the World Championships. So it doesn't seem to be his strength.
Did he work with them when she did Schindler's List and he just
Yes.
won junior? Right, okay, interesting. I mean, I think of Lisa Van Julen, and I always think of him as being so balletic and so clean in his line, and yet when I think of the Boguslaviev, I think of a bit rough around the edges. So it's interesting. I suppose you wonder with Julen as a coach now, he was a world champion in, 93?
He's already had his Olympic champions, too. I mean, you have to look at that as well.
Yes, well, yeah, exactly. What, Tatiana Napka, yeah, he's had Olympic champions, he's a world champion himself.
And there's only so much you can do with certain skaters. You can't...
Yeah.
Look, if she's hunched in her neck, if she has a short neck, or if she has a posture, you can't fix everything. So it's...
Yeah, and I suppose what is the motivation of the coach then? You have to question that.
With this team, I think it's just every year I feel like the program is similar, even if the theme is wildly different. To me, I can't remember a lot of their program after I watch it. It's just...
Yeah, I mean, if I'm being brutally honest, the music for the free dance this year, I was sure that they'd skated to that in the past.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't. Of course they can, but I'm sure when I heard of that, we've not done this before. But, praise for praise is due. They're strong, they're capable. We're talking about capping their elements at +2, but still, nevertheless, they're doing +2 elements.
Mm-hmm.
Level 4 do with most stuff. So they deserve their place, and I think they'll ride it out to Pyeongchang, and they'll be in the Russian Olympic team, and they'll go forth and hopefully pursue other things.
What do you think of Stepanova and Bukin? Because this team, they don't seem to be as strong of skaters, but one thing is that they're growing in terms of their projection and their performance, and they're consistent as all get out. There's been some debate about which is the team that Russia should push. It should be them, or should it be Katsalapov and Snitsina? Should it be... Yet this team has taken advantage of every opportunity, and they've delivered every time, which I think means a lot.
Yeah, and I think, moving forward, who do you, as you say, who do you back? With Stepanova and Bukin, I feel that I've got more faith in them as a couple going forward. I like Sinitsina and Katsalapov. I think that they are aesthetically more beautiful as a couple. I mean, I think Stepanova and Bukin are brilliant also, but I think when I look at the image of Sinitsina and Katsalapov, I think, they're really, really lovely. But I don't have necessarily the greatest faith in their long-term commitment beyond Pyeongchang. Whereas Stepanova and Bukin, I don't know these teams, don't get me wrong, I don't know them, I don't see them train. But obviously they've got staying power and they've been together for so many seasons now, and I expect that to go on. So,
and they have the love of Tatiana Tarasova, which is so important in Russia. So.
If she's on your corner, then
Yeah.
life is good.
It's interesting that she's definitely in their corner. Obviously, she coached his father, and you see her reaction even when she's commentating. That absolutely thrilled for this team. Ben Augusto really took a look at what is right and wrong with this team when he was commentating on American TV, and he was pointing out how nothing is ever truly extended, even in their lifts. One of them will have a stretched limb, but then something else will be bent, and they don't really take advantage of their lines. And it's a little like this. Everything looks a little hunched in, and they don't move as one, even in their footwork sequences. It looks like they're almost fighting each other at times.
Yeah, and I suppose this tango, this free dance now, it kind of lends itself to that almost introverted look. But I'd agree with Ben probably, and that's where to me, Sinitsina and Katsalapov, they are more open,
Yes.
and that's something that stylistically, to me, that's massive. Your openness through your neck and your chest is huge, and I like a lot of what Stepanova and Bukin do. But I would agree with Ben. It's just a little bit intense, a little bit tight. It'll be interesting to see, though. I mean, blues, short dance, that's a little bit intense as a dance. That's a little bit more sexy and sultry and introverted again, potentially, as is tango. So perhaps it's just a choice of genre they've got to go with in the short dance and they're using in the free dance.
Are you waiting for the big coaching change with this team when they go for
And you know what? I actually have to say Svinen and Zhuk, I think the coaches that they have, and they've had for many, many years. Interestingly, when I, like as a coach, I'm looking at the Russian novice dance team, and so often, or the Russian junior teams really, Svinen and Zhuk are at the helm with so many young, really good, strong, and credible Russian young teams. And it saddens me to know that the inevitable will occur, and they'll have to move. I think Spinner and Zhuk had Kuklova and Nowitzki, so they have had European champions. But you've just commented on it. Are you waiting for the inevitable switch?
Well, when you think of Kokolova and Nowitzki, I think of that awful Firebird program that they did at the Olympics where she was drowning in that costume. I just think with this team, the program is reductive, and I know that Russia is a country where they do the great ballets again and again and again. To me, this tango, Sinitsina and Katsalapov's, it's like watching the same kind of program. She looks like she's in Caitlin Weaver's dress from Je suis malade, but it doesn't scream imaginative to me. There's no vision, and if Tarasova's in their corner, I'm surprised that she's not. I know that Peter Chernyshov did this program, but I'm surprised that she's not guiding them in a more creative light, I would think.
For Stepanova and Bukin, sorry.
Yeah, for Stepanova and Bukin, yeah.
Yeah. I suppose it would be interesting to know what the Russian Federation does as to how much say they have.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose decisions will be made, massive decision making will be made after Europeans and after World as to who all the money is sent behind.
Yeah.
For Pyeongchang.
Well, it looks like most likely off the World team are both Ilyinik and Zaganshin and Sinitsina and Katsalapov. What are your feelings on them? Obviously, I've been reporting for years that I thought that they have I personally believe that they have both wasted the last 2.5, 3 years. It looks like we've gotten nowhere since the last Olympics. Neither team has really been excelling. They're both off the world team, and he's had injuries, and they talk about motivation issues with Ilyinik. He was kicked out of the Canton rink, allegedly, by many reports. So what is your take on these teams?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I discussed this with you in the last interview, but to me, they're obviously before we really knew about Papadakis and Cizeron coming through, but when they did Black Swan in Sochi, I and every other ice dance fan in the world was infatuated by them, and I, like so many others, predicted that they were the inevitable Olympic gold medalists. We know the way that ice dance works. We knew that the top two North American teams were likely to turn professional, and that they take the front running for the next 4 years. I mean, it pained me as it did so many. It was gobsmacking when they split. You just don't know as an athlete, and as a skater myself, if we don't know what was happening day to day, if they absolutely hated the sight of each other, then it's more important to be a happy human than it is to be a successful skater. Nobody has a magic ball, but you wonder whether or not now, especially because things aren't going so well for either of those skaters, whether or not they could have sucked up 4 years of misery and an Olympic gold medal and banked the winnings after that, and that might have paved a happier life. I don't know.
I was wondering what you think about the teams in terms of their potential. Because to me, I look at Sinitsyn and Katsalapov. Marina, when they first got together, was very adamant about how good their look was. And when you watch them, the look, she has a very nice line. He has a nice line. We knew that going in. He's a good partner. But to me, there was something about he and Elena together that was so strong that they fed off of each other and they had this chemistry. And even though he's been reportedly dating Victoria, they don't have that spark when you watch them, and they don't have a lot of chemistry between them. There are lots of rumors about these teams at all times who could split. There are rumors about this team, maybe not lasting the long haul. I don't know. I just don't. She lacks Ilyinik's star power times 1,000, and I struggle because she's improving in her projection, but not at the same rate he is, and it's almost like I don't know who to look at when I was watching them. I'm like, do I watch her or watch him?
Yeah, I mean, it's fascinating because Marina Zareeva, she knows her stuff, and she's so, obviously she's right, but she's so right in acknowledging that this is a picture perfect, aesthetically created team, and I think that they do look aesthetically beautiful, very, very beautiful physically. But you're right, Elenique has an energy and a vivaciousness that was captivating. And I find just it's like, in terms of Elenik and Ruslan, their energy levels are at odds, and obviously Sinitsina and Katsalapov, their energy levels are at odds as well. And maybe in time, how long I remember seeing videos of Elenik and Katsalapov from 2005. They were together like 9 years.
Yeah.
So in ratios of time, perhaps if they're given the opportunities, then the two new formings could, in time, get a more even chemistry and energy. But they don't have that time now.
I don't see anything between either of the teams, to be honest. I see a little bit more, perhaps, with Sinitsina and Katsalapov if you stretch. But the one thing that I notice is that her skating, she's a good skater, but she's not as powerful as Nikita is. So it almost looks like she's dulling his shine a little bit, even though she's very pretty and a very nice skater. They haven't ever fully meshed. He is not skating in time with her. It's a strange thing that's going on.
Yeah, and that's when you have to consider, the what is the X factor. Elena Elenik had the X factor. Elena Nikita had the X factor, and more of that than even Papadakis and Cizeron. But just obviously, chemistries, chemicals either work or don't work, and so far certainly these teams don't mesh. I'm not a huge fan. It saddens me when I watch Elena with Ruslan.
Yes.
Because thus far it pales in comparison to the magic of Black Swan and Sochi.
Yes. She's had moments, I think, with Ruslan where she herself has shown moments, but to me it's always Elena skating with a token younger partner who's not really.
It shows that Ruslan, because obviously Ruslan's incredible as well. He was both in Europeans with Victoria, so he's phenomenal. And yet, when he's with Elena, he's always just the guy that's hanging on to Elena. And so, yeah, it'll be very interesting to see what happens.
It would be interesting if what these people as skaters believe in their future. You talk about motivation issues. You have to wonder if Elena wonders how far this team can go, because if you're having motivation issues, I would look at, if you're optimistic about the future, you'll be more motivated. So you have to wonder how much she believes in this partnership. And skating psychology, self-sabotage is all very interesting, but to me, it did not look like this team was in any contention for making the World Championships, nor did it seem like the commentators thought so at any moment. They really thought that these teams were battling for the bronze and a trip to Europeans, perhaps. And this is Elena Olenek, who was an Olympic champion in the team event.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole dynamic of it is just fascinating. If you look beyond, the actual sport and the actual skating, the whole dynamic is utterly blow your mind. It's a bit like the Chinese pairs teams have all flip-flopped. But, I wonder what happens in the dressing room at Russian nationals. And it seems to be, obviously, they'll have this internal battle. I think the first year they've all competed against each other, Elena and Ruslan fared better, and then it swapped. But they kind of kept themselves down. Like these two teams have kind of got themselves locked in this tussle, but fallen off radar from the others, like Papadakis and Cizeron. I mean, I would look probably next to Tiffany Zahorsky and Jonathan Guerrero. They're more likely.
Tiffany has something. She has a little bit more of an X factor. With Elena, I think that she's still a great performer, but she's not the Black Swan that she was back, and doesn't appear physically capable of that at this moment in time. Whether or not she can, reinvent herself from the Olympics, I think. But again, you have to look at motivation. To me, I thought that this free dance that they have is quite generic in terms of a Bollywood program for 4 minutes. It never is special, and it never looks even remotely special. It looks like an idea that's... I'm sorry?
I find it a bit hashed together. I know that sounds awful because they're brilliant skaters. We compare them to what they were with their previous partners.
But this program on its own, with all due respect, is shit. It is really, and it never builds towards the end, and their own skating falls off. And that is what I think the big problem is that it never goes anywhere. And it
doesn't look like there's, it's not being packaged and framed in the way that a team who was really eyeing an Olympic gold medal would do. It's not like it's been, well, it certainly doesn't appear to be the case that it's been a stylistic choice that is going to pave the way for the Olympic year. It doesn't look like it's being choreographed and constructed in a manner that is really conducive to securing tens or lifts that will get plus threes. I have to say that I really, that's my least favorite free dance that I've seen in the Grand Prix series this year.
Of all of the free dances?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think when I originally thought Elena Ilyinic doing Bollywood, I thought that's, she has personality, she's great, but this program is not up to her level. And, if you look at the choreographer and then their skating, it was the best that it's been, perhaps, but to me, it just looks like there's a long way to go. And this, to me, looks like a dead end at this point. For both teams, I have to be honest. I think for both teams that we've seen what they can do, and neither works. And I don't know where they go from there. Do they get new partners? What do they do? But neither team, to me, moving forward, is a sure bet. I don't see either improving for the Olympics.
When you think, sometimes great success paves the way for like an enlightened look at the future, or great success for them with their Olympic bronze medal was the catalyst for change. Now they're kind of at the depths of despair and not qualifying for Europeans or Worlds. Will that be a flip coin of catalyst for change and reinvention and new partnerships, or even current partnerships reformed with a different approach?
Yeah, it's interesting how similar Elena Ilyinic and Gracie Gold appear to be at this point in time, in terms of the energy that just seems to be happening. But with the ladies, there was a ton of energy here. Medvedeva, don't love especially the short. I don't love the jump rope in the beginning. For a senior lady world champion, the jump rope in the footwork, it's so sophomoric. It's so just silly and pedestrian. This is a girl that is capable of having great stretch. To me, I find the program so overly cluttered for the sake of being cluttered. It's transitions for the sake of transitions. And the lobes, the actual circles that these ladies are using, are smaller than you'd see from perhaps the Japanese, the North Americans, where they skate more. These girls are doing a lot of difficult turns, but they're smaller. And
I mean, to me, it's just absolutely fascinating, like the Russian ladies. And I was looking at some stats, like apart from, we talk about Russian lady skating as it is now, I include Sotnikova in that group, okay? But outside of this current wave of Russian lady skating, okay, so Skaya got a couple of medals at Olympics, and then there was Kira Ivanova in
84,
84, good man. But apart from that, you've had no Russian ladies really medaling. I mean, Oksana Bayul, Ukraine, but you haven't had Russian ladies medaling at Olympic Games. And yet now, we have this amazing wave of Russian ladies. Whereas on the flip side, you had Russian men from Viktor Pachenko kind of to Urmanov, to Kulik, to Yagin, to Plushenko, and now they've kind of tapered off. But certainly in terms of Russian lady skating as it stands now, I find it fascinating from a coaching perspective, and I think hats off to Eteri Tupuritsa, because she has created a formula, it appears to be a formula, that ticks all the boxes and is indisputably getting really good scores. And there's a lot of vitriol for Medvedeva that I've seen on the internet, which kind of frightens me because the skating fans are obviously very passionate. But she's box ticking. She does her change edge counter out of the landing of her jump. She does back counters out of jumps. She does jumps with the arm above the head. It's a very considered approach, and as a young coach, I admire the formula that has created these young skaters.
I don't see an artistic point of view. I don't see skating as an art when I watch her program. I see it as an athletic pursuit for the points, which skating is a sport. I find that I hate what the IJS has done, where the choreography mark is there choreography? Yes. It's not, is it good choreography? It's not, is it interesting? Is it, it's...
And I think that actually, I saw some bashing of Medvedeva saying that she has no artistry whatsoever. I actually do think this young lady, she has got some soul. You can see that she's got interpretation, but it probably just doesn't have the chance to breathe when there is so much going on within the program. to acquire and accrue
If you
points.
got her away from Alverboot's overwrought programs, I mean, he is the star of the latest Schindler's List debacle in skating. I really think that this is a girl who has a lot of talent. I will say that it's interesting that they put the same moves in her program where she does the Sasha Cohen skid and her leg is never at 180 and it's always hanging down there like in yoga class when you're trying to get it up. And that makes me laugh. I would like it if she pointed her toes a bit more, but she's perhaps a better competitor than Katarina Witt, and I don't think she gets credit for that. I mean, this is a girl who has the competitive soul of a beast, and when she gets out there, she is not willing to wilt season after season.
Yeah, it would be fascinating. It would be really, really fascinating to see. Because, like I've just said, I absolutely praise the team behind her for what they've done. It would be very, very interesting to see if they could do some choreography swaps. Obviously, Radionova, she's used Shailene Bourne. It'd be interesting to see if they would ever just bring in a different influence to broaden the artistic spectrum of this youngster. And I mean, I am almost sure that professionally she'll go on to work with a whole host of different inputs. It would be very interesting to see if your plea to get Sandra Bezic on board will ever come to fruition.
I have other people for Sandra to get involved with. I think that if we're going to do this, but I think that
I'm available. I'll help.
Yeah. The interesting thing is that I thought that Sotnikova really improved in her time away from. I remember watching the Sochi Olympics and just being kind of confounded by what transpired. And watching the exhibition and seeing Sotnikova, and I almost think that you can kind of judge kind of the merit of a skater by their exhibition, and seeing Sotnikova with the wings, flags, whatever, and just thinking, oh, this is sad. This is really just uninspired. And then she became quite an interesting skater after being a
And it's a shame because after she did the Strictly Come Dancing or Dancing with the Stars, whatever. I thought she was fabulous. I remember seeing her come back and do the Russian test skate and thinking, oh wow, you'd be wonders to watch. And that's maybe what Medvedeva could do with just a little bit more.
Well, that's where I think that the judges really need to look, skating goes in waves. The Michelle Kwan, Sasha Cohen style is, very successful, very popular. We've moved towards this style. I don't think it'll be forever, but it's there right now until the ISU redefines or recategorizes what is good skating. And right now, Duhamel and Radford check the boxes. And people don't like it, but it gets it done. And until there's a movement to change, I don't see it changing. I think I enjoy Medvedeva as a competitive personality. The fact that she's willing to do a triple salto, triple toe is fascinating. In the second half of her program, that is one of the most interesting competitive animals. Now, you go back to Eteri Tugberidze, she's never had a skater that really developed into a woman over the age of 18, and we've seen what happened to Polina Shelepin, what happened to Korbanikova, what happened to Yulia. This girl, it'll be very interesting to see what happens in a year or two and what her staying power is.
But also, you wonder now, because I don't know how many triple loops, triple toe, or triple loops, triple loop combinations were done at this Russian national events. Obviously we can find that out from the PDFs, but, it's a crazy volume of triple combinations. But you're kind of maxing out, when are one of these young Russian ladies going to go for triple axel? When are they going to move the bar like the men are moving the bar?
Well, a lot of them have double axles that kind of drag the free leg through that look horrible and just dicey.
Yeah, and look at Radionova's double axel. You're so right. So many of these young Russian ladies have very uncomfortable looking double axles, which I doubt would ever make triples. And maybe this is then where, after Pyeongchang, the Japanese ladies will take the shift, and then that'll be a next thing, and then there'll be.
Well, I think with these ladies, it looks like the Russians, they get these triples at such a young age, at 10, 11, 12 years old, where they know that they need them, otherwise they won't be competitive. But they never learn how to really skate, and then do them with a lot of flow and speed in and out of them. They get the job done, but Medvedeva's jumps are not large. They're their rotation is incredible. The height of them is not there, and that's why, when puberty happens, it can tell.
And that's what's interesting in spectator sport. We look at Caitlin Osmond, Ashley Wagner, these two different types of female bodies essentially can both produce similar results. And I just hope that this wave of Russian ladies will be able to physically withstand the tortures and rigors of the sport, to be able to offer us something from a different female perspective, almost a different, more mature look later in time. Because
about like Zagitova doing all of her jumps in the second half. Obviously, that's something that Nathan Chen did as a junior as well. To me, look, by the points, it's allowed to do it. That, to me, is not a well-constructed program, and I think that is such a failing of the judging system, and that is, look, it's taking the rules and using them to your advantage, but to me, the second mark should be completely damaged.
That's the primary anxiety over watching this young lady is, I hope she lasts. I hope that she can go beyond and offer something more. That triple loop was fabulous. Can her body withstand the physical rigors of this sport at that tender age to be able to offer us something more for 2022 Olympics? Because, we look at five-time world champion Michelle Kwan, and she gave skating a fan base and a viewership that we related to, and skating wants that, and Medvedeva could potentially offer that. I'm not sure, I hope, but I want one of these young Russian ladies to last for a little while so that we can get behind her,
Yeah, it is becoming, I think, what Carlo Fassi feared with becoming gymnastics on ice, where you look at Rodionova, and this is perhaps, Helena Fly was trying to be polite, saying she could come back strong, and you think, here's a girl who had one hand down on her triple loop, but she's now off the team in yesterday's news. And, we've watched that trajectory from last year. 2 years ago was better, 3 years ago a lot better. And now it's ending.
Look at Russian nationals. We had, Elena Leonova. She was a world silver medalist. Somewhere down in the depths of despair in Russian nationals, and it just doesn't offer, perhaps, we fans want somebody to cling on to it. I think. Do you know what I mean? We want somebody to get rallied behind in the way that, you have Federer and Nadal. You kind of want that for the sport.
Yeah. That's what grows the sport. What did you think of Sotskova versus Pogorelaya? One thing is that I thought that Pogorelaya, a lot of her elements were just kind of checked off in this competition because she had a knee injury. But I don't see anything very special about Sotskova at this point in terms of her programs. I don't see a lot of presence. I think Pogorelaya could definitely learn how to stretch her knee and look at the audience and emote, but she does have something, je ne sais quoi, that Sotskova does not have at this point.
Yeah, Pogorelaya was interesting because, she's, we talk about will the physical body, the female body withstand, like Pogorelaya, she looks like a young lady, young woman, and she's still doing triple combinations, and that's great to see, and I respect her for that. She's not stylistically as pretty fine as some of the other Russian ladies, but I have more faith in her. Admirable, efficient. The interesting thing that I found about Sotskova was the reaction to her free skate when she finished. She did the one single axel, and that, to me, it was interesting. She looked despondent when she finished, and I thought, is that the state of Russian lady skating, that one top jump is enough to cause despair, because such is the strength of the clean skates in Russian nationals that one double axel turning into single is cause for devastation, and that was noteworthy to me. But in terms of her actual skating, very nice, very inoffensive. To be honest, in the words of Adam Rippon, TBH, bland, perhaps.
Yeah, it's a bit Pauline Edmonds for me at this point.
Yeah. Excellent.
What did you think of the pair event here? We had Tarasova and Morozov against Stobova and Klimov. Stobova and Klimov going for a new look. We haven't seen them. Weren't sure if they were going to compete this year. Their throws were not ready for competition. They look like they're on their way back. I could see them definitely making a push for the Olympics, perhaps for the podium at Worlds if everything continues to go well. What did you make of their return to competition?
Okay, so hands up, admittedly, pairs in the discipline I skated and competed in, and it tends to be the one that I'm least excited about this season. But I was interested, this is where I need my Dave Lee's help in background chat, but Nina Moser, okay? Nina Moser, Velocitar Trankov, Nina Moser, Tarasova, Morozov, Nina Moser, Stobova, Klimov? Nina Moser is now...
And Zapiago and Embert as well.
Yes. So she is now
The go-to of
Mosquina
pairs.
of Russian.
Yes.
Yeah. But that was an interesting dynamic. We reference all the time the Marie-France de Breu, but we should reference her a little bit more. I thought Slavova and Klimov, I really liked the short program.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the short program was good. I thought it was really strong. It's all good. The free skate, obviously they had the mistakes on the throws. Kudos to them though for being relatively, it looks like within the state of pair skating this season, this could very well be anything, well, from first to fifth maybe. I think pairs is really down to health, Aliona Zen, and the state of Megan Duhamel and Eric Radford's throws. So yeah, they were good. They were good. I didn't really like the free skate. I didn't really want, I'd written in my notes, what did they want? What did they want from this? Because it's a little bit wacky. What are they looking for? Because it doesn't look like a vehicle that it doesn't look like the vehicle of the Olympic champions in earnest. I kind of didn't know what they were going for with the kind of wacky stuff. But they were Russian.
I am waiting for Sway and Han to come back. They're supposed to be back at the Asian Games, and they are training, and I think they have their jumps back. Heard a little bit from some of the people that've seen them train. I'll be very curious to see if they can get it prepared for the World Championships. I was a little bit surprised when I watched these programs that Tarasa and Morozov didn't win. It's interesting. I chatted with Robin at Skate America, and he said that they're just trying to give Tarasova and Morozov personality, but I don't think that they've ever found that in these vehicles that they're giving them. And as well as, Tarasa Morozov, he makes a lot of errors.
I mean,
a 2.5 toe loop, or he, popped the sow cow, and I don't have the real faith in this team that they have that extra X factor when it comes to competition that you see from someone like Medvedeva.
You referenced that combination jump, and I thought the same when he did that. I was thinking, "Oh, do you really want this title? You look like you're skating to cling on to the win rather than fight for the win." And I thought that was a shame. It's always a bit sad to see the skater, in a bit of desperation trying to cling on, because obviously the double toe shouldn't have been. It didn't look like the combination was that difficult. That looked like a bit of an Tarasov and Morozov short is an improvement. I just for me, I sound terrible today, but I'm not a fan of the music choice for the free skate. I just think it's really dated, and it was
used by a gymnast at the '87 Worlds, and to me, that's what it looks like. So,
yeah, like it's like '90s beginner boy music, like you see during their single loose. Like it's I just and yet they to me are more Russian classical line. So they are more stylistically, they are clean, and I thought the short program was good. Did they have Peter Chernishev?
I don't even know who choreographed this. It's not even something that I've cared to really look up because it's so uninspired to me. It's like they found people that look good, their lines match, they can jump, you put them together, and like Sinitsina and Katsalapov, the spark just isn't there for me. It's just not. I don't know.
And when you have a team that doesn't have amazing interaction and energy, then you need, they've got a split quad twist, but you need, in the world of pairs as it is now, where you're seeing more full triple axels, you're seeing a few more full quads, they probably need a little bit more technical arsenal to make their challenge for an Olympic medal more concrete in its expectation.
I think the biggest thing is mental for them, because at this point we see that they're working on, they compete a quad twist, but they're not memorable. But I worry that pairs will become so mathematical that we won't see that magic that everyone
I'll be interested to see how Pyeongchang goes. I'll be interested to see if Volosya will come back, because there's obviously nothing in Russia at the moment that suitably threatens their return. Although the child, I don't know, does she state that she wants to return?
I'm not sure. I would have to look at the rest of the world. It didn't seem like he wanted to skate last season in competition. So
yeah, he was watching though. I gathered that the Trankov was watching.
Well, he's been coaching, so I think he was there. Interesting. I want to just briefly point out the men's. I thought that Mikhail Kolyada really is a skater that is developing at this point into a force. And we didn't see him at the Grand Prix final, but I'm sure you saw his quad lutz on Instagram, and it looks certainly close to being landed in competition.
I mean, the quad is humongous. I mean, the one that was posted, the one that he landed. I thought it was fascinating. Again, Skating Protocol revealing the GOEs that were released for the.
Yeah. What do you have to feel about? Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's just fascinating. That's sad of the sport that something can perhaps be given. Was it +2 or +1?
+1 and
for
+2 for by different.
At times. In terms of, obviously, the Russian Federation are really, really pushing him, and I can understand that. I did think that I think he got 94 in the components for the free skate, and I think Kovtun got 88. I think that could be right. I didn't necessarily have him. I think Kolyada is brilliant, and I think I could watch that quad loops. I would pay money to just watch that. It was so mesmeric on Instagram. The must do live. It was phenomenal. I did think that he perhaps justified the discrepancy in the component scores over the skated with 2 quads when he didn't land 1 quad in the free skate. That was interesting, but I suppose the Federation has to get behind their man, and they've got to push somebody forward confidently to compete against Nathan Chen and Han Yu and the like.
I see more presence in Kolyada than I do in Kovtun, and at this point I don't have much faith in Kovtun. I think that both were overscored in components, but it is a national championship, so it's so hard. It's so hard when the scoring is so skewed to even know where people deserve. I just look at the ranking and just say, I think that the competition ended with the appropriate ranking. I think if he can land those quads by Worlds, he'll be a contender. He's someone that he took his success last year and has run with it, and I respect that.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see that quad loops in competition, and I think he also has one of the biggest triple axles. I actually watched him with triple axles in the short program from Russian Nationals. It looked relatively open in the air. It looked like, I know Han Yu discusses the fact that he wants his dream is to land quad axle. I think Kolyada could. I think he looks like he could do it as much as anybody. I mean, he just seems to have a second up in the jump that is very exciting.
So overall, what was your MK moment of the week for Russian Nationals?
Oh no! I didn't think this. I like the triple loop from Zagatola.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've got to. Okay. Pressure. Give me yours. What's yours?
So mine has to be Medvedeva's triple sal, triple toe. The unexpected nature of it, the competition, the competitive fire. I thought that was really an exciting moment. Knowing that Tro is not going to get any points. It's a rule change from last year to this year because now just the extra jump is invalidated, and you have to think if that rule were in effect for years past, there are so many different world championships. Mariah Bell's nationals last year would have been very, very different with those rules. So I'm very curious to see if she will do this at the Europeans and the Worlds. I was definitely excited that she did do it there. So.
Kudos to her. That was exciting. We needed that. We needed something to get talking about.
Yeah. So I mean, you're going to go with Zagitova and her triple loop. It was certainly exciting to see a triple loop on the back end of a combination that was rotated.
Yeah, and I think also interesting that she's held that. She had to do the triple loop in the short for juniors all season, so she's obviously had this in her arsenal that she's kept simmering under wraps for a while. She's obviously so confident in her technique that she can put it out in the first.
Well, I think that's what you expected at Russian Nationals. I mean, the drama of these girls when they ended, the emotion that was coming out of them, the pressure, the tension of this event, it always delivers every year.
And I don't know whether or not I kind of don't know whether or not I want it to be. You kind of want to be a Russian. Obviously, you want to be a Russian skater because they're so phenomenal, and you want to be competing in a national championships that's that full, that packed, but equally. The pressure that all those skaters looked under was quite horrific, and all they probably want to do is just enjoy their Christmas now.
Well, I enjoyed it immensely. I thought about, would you go with the Poker Relaya, the ending or the drama of Rodionova or, Medvedeva's just nonchalant attitude about competition, but I loved it. So as always, we want to remind you to hold an edge and look sexy. Bye, guys.